الحمد لله على نعمه الظاهرة والباطنة قديما وحديثا وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه الذين ساروا في نصرة دينه سيرا حثيثا وعلى أتباعهم الذين ورثوا علمهم والعلماء ورثة الأنبياء أكرم بهم وارثا وموروثا ثم أما بعد. All praise and gratitude are due to Allah. We thank Allah for the infinite mercies of Islam, the mercy of sound health, and the mercy of the opportunity to observe Salatul Maghrib at this auspicious hour. Today is the 23rd of the sacred but blessed month of Rabiul Awwal, about 1,446 years of the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ from Mecca to Medina. This somehow coincides with the Christian calculation of the calculation of the Christian era, and they say it's the 26th of September, about 2024 years of the birth of Isa in Sahha. At this auspicious hour, I begin with the traditional salutations of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amma ba'du, I want to welcome brothers whose faces are always beaming with nur to our weekly study of the 40 Ahadith al-Qudsiyah. Nonetheless, nothing compares to seeking knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in many ayahs in the Quran about the importance of knowledge. Likewise, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned the importance of seeking knowledge. I therefore want to continue encouraging brothers to make it a routine, constant, that they make time with us every Thursday to learn the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Consider, for example, the famous hadith of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, narrated by Bukhari and Muslim, where he says, "Man yuridullahu bihi khayra yufaqihu fi din." Muawiyah says, whoever Allah wishes good for them, He grants them the knowledge of the deen. He granted the understanding of the deen. Yufaqihu fi din. And the fifth is al-fahm, having a good understanding of the deen. The scholars say, contrarily, if Allah doesn't wish good for somebody, what does He do? Allah afflicts them with ignorance. So they become ignorant, they worship Allah based on ignorance, and they die on ignorance. Waliyaz billah. This is why when Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu saw a section of the Sahaba rather engage in trade and commerce, whereas Rasulullah was teaching, he told them to hurry and go because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's inheritance is being shared. So they asked, he told them, what are you doing at this moment? At this moment, the inheritance, the portion of the legacy of Rasulullah is being shared. They said, what is it? He said, Rasulullah is at the moment teaching ilm, giving knowledge at the masjid. What are you doing? More important is this, and they do not know how to pray. It's still very heart-rending for me. So I want brothers, in the same way they approach their businesses and the dunya, I want them to be more proactive in seeking the knowledge of the deen. This is why Abu Darda, Sa'ad bin Sa'al al-Sa'idi, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and many of the Sahaba narrate the importance of seeking knowledge. Safwan ibn Asal al-Muradi, for example, says in a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, فَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ لَتَضَوْا أَجْنِحَتَهَا لِطَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ رِضًا بِمَا يَطْلُبُ. That the angels spread their wings for the seeker of knowledge, for the student of knowledge, they spread their wings for him from the time he sets out from his house until he gets to the place of knowledge and back to his house. Only in acceptance, in being showing the fact that they are pleased with his seeking of knowledge. There's nothing like this in going for ibadah. But in seeking knowledge, the angels, they spread their wings for the student of knowledge. Abu Darda says in a hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the knowledge of the ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. Wal ulama warathatul anbiya. Then he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the prophets did not actually leave any dirham or dinar. They left no money, but they left knowledge. Whoever is able to acquire something of the knowledge that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left behind has indeed inherited an aspect of nubuwwah or messengership. So it is very important for us to make seeking of knowledge a very important requirement for us. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hadith Abu Huraira, man saraka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilma sahhala Allahu lahu tariqan bihi ila al-jannah. This hadith was actually mentioned by Abu Huraira, and Imam al-Mundhiri mentions this in the Targhib wa Tarhib. And likewise, it's a hadith in Abu Dawud, in Ibn Majah's Sunan, in Imam al-Tirmidhi's Jami', and Imam Ahmad's Musnad. Whoever takes a path in search of knowledge, Allah will make his path easy to Jannah. Easy. And one good thing about seeking knowledge is that it is possible for you to set forth to seek knowledge and not acquire the knowledge, but the reward of that effort will still be there. Allah will place that mountainous reward for you on the day of Qiyamah. But it is possible for the servant to go out for worship and the worship is not accepted. His prayer, his ruku is deficient, is weak, his sujood is weak, his fatiha is weak, his other surah is weak. Allah would not grant him the required reward. But for knowledge, even he did not acquire the knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would grant him the reward of the intention if his intentions are good. This is why the Quran says, Allah grants wisdom to whoever he wishes. So whoever Allah grants wisdom, he has indeed given him a great good. A lot of goodness. Yutil hikmata man yasha. He grants wisdom to whoever he wills. And the wisdom here is knowledge. وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. So I want to encourage us to make it a point to pay attention to seeking knowledge, inshallah. And I'm very grateful to the brothers for making it a point to organize this place and be here with us. Jazakumullahu khairan. Today's hadith, we are done. Last week we ended or concluded with the hadith of Abu Mas'ud al-Ansari, in which he mentioned the generous or righteous businessman who سِبَ رَجُلٌ مِمَّنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ فَلَمْ يُوجَدْ لَهُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ شَيْءٌ. So we concluded this hadith, and today we are beginning a very long hadith which I intend breaking into 3 parts for us to quickly learn in a matter of 3 weeks. This is the hadith of Attā'iyy bin Hātim, and we shall come to his background inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. عن عدي بن حاتم رضي الله عنه يقول كنت عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فجاءه رجلان أحدهما يشكو العيلة والآخر يشكو قطع السبيل فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أما قطع السبيل فإنه لا يأتي عليك إلا قليل حتى تخرج العير إلى مكة بغير خفير وأما العيلة فإن الساعة لا تقوم حتى يطوف أحدكم بصدقته لا يجد من يقبلها منه ثم ليقيفن أحدكم بين يدي الله ليس بينه وبينه حجاب ولا ترجمان يترجم له ثم ليقولن له ألم أوتيك مالا فلا يقولن بلى ثم ليقولن ألم أرسل إليك رسولا فلا يقولن بلى فينظر عنه بيمينه فلا يرى إلا النار ثم ينظر عن شماله فلا يرى إلا النار فليتقين أحدكم النار ولو بشق التمرة فإن لم يجد فبكلمة طيبة رواه البخاري. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Attā'iyy ibn Hātim, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, I was with the messenger of Allah, may the blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, and there came to him two men, Rajulani, two men. What did they come with? They came to Rasulullah sallam complaining about two issues. One of them was complaining about penury, al-ayla, while the other was complaining of brigandry. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, as for brigandry, it will be but a short time before a caravan will be able to go out to Mecca without a guard. As for penury, the one who complained about ayla, the hour will not arrive before one of you takes his charity around without finding anyone to accept it from him. Then one of you will surely stand before Allah. There be no screen between him and him. The first him refers to Allah, and the second him refers to the human being. So Rasulullah now is not talking about the fact that, we shall come to that inshallah though, that Allah will solve their issues, but there will be judgment after that. And one of us, which means every one of us, will stand before Allah, and there will not be any screen between you and Allah. Why would that be? Because Allah intends to judge you. Allah wants you now to account for your stewardship in this dunya and the wealth He gave you. Then He will look to His left, He will see nothing but hellfire. Both His left and right are full of hellfire. Then He will see nothing but hellfire. So the Rasulullah then said, so let each of you protect himself against hellfire, be it with even half a date. Half a day. We see that those hadiths, like other similar hadiths, are loaded with a lot of lessons. They are loaded with a lot of fawaid. First of all, the Sahabi who has been mentioned, there's something about him that is very important. Then his father. Then the mention of the complaint of penury. What is penury? Al-ayla. Penury is the situation of poverty. So this is an indication that if you are a Muslim today in the 21st century, in 2024, who complains about penury, about destitution, about poverty, they let him know that there were before him people who were poor, but they served Allah. Until the Sahaba would come to Rasulullah and complain about the magnitude, the gravity of poverty on them. Among the Sahaba, there are those who have experienced destitution to the highest level, to the extent that they shared one cloth with their wives. Have you ever seen this kind of poverty? Today I see the homeless in America carrying trolleys and carts, shopping carts with a lot of clothes. They have more than enough. They have even tents to sleep in, right? The homeless design their whole own tent as they sleep in tents. Among the Sahaba, they suffered abject poverty until the only safe haven for them was the masjid. Among the Sahaba, they suffered abject poverty until the only source of sustenance for them was food from the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam itself sometimes will go for 90 days, 3 months without food. They would even go for 3 months without date, and sometimes they only fed on dates. So what kind of poverty did they experience? Yet they stood, served Allah, supported the deen, and they gave their lives for this deen. I bet you, Ikhwan, none of us has ever experienced the poverty of the Sahaba. None of us. So penury is abject poverty. Then another complaint about brigandry. Brigandry is in common terms armed robbery. The crime of confiscating properties that do not belong to you. Robbery of any sort, or banditry, because banditry was prevalent in those times. When people will look at you, they look at your car, they mark you. When you travel far in a place where there's no one, they attack you with swords or knives or any weapon and kill you, then they take whatever you have. It was source of livelihood for people in the past. So one complains about poverty and the other complains about robbery. So these are important aspects of the kind of lives they experienced in the past. Then there is the mention of shortness of wealth, and there is the mention of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ease these experiences and grant them wealth. No matter what. Now, Rasulullah now gives them glad tidings that brigandry will stop. The armed robbery, the stealing will go away very soon. Very soon the poverty will also go away. Allah will grant you wealth. As we come to know, Rasulullah once told the Sahaba, he told them, Mal faqru akhsha alaykum. It is not poverty that I fear for you. What is poverty? Like I mentioned the issue of the homeless. I have seen homeless, you might think he's poor, but he has 3, 4, 5 dogs. Right? He's carrying dogs and feeding the dogs. Do you think this man is poor? No. When we mention the poverty of the Sahaba, this is not the kind of poverty. Some of the Sahaba lived and died without getting married because of poverty. And this was an era where Rasulullah was present among them. When Abdulaziz, it was possible for you to bring a ring or memorize an ayah, and that would be enough. That would be enough dowry for you and your wife. Some of them married and their wives would still live with their parents, and they were married and giving birth. Some of them got married and the only thing they gave was a memorization of a surah in their head. What if the memorization was weak? What if I told you, I want to marry your daughter, I have memorized Surah Al-Kawthar, and after marriage, I'm reciting it wrongly. That's like a fake, that's like a counterfeit. Right? Some of them married on account of ring they had, silver ring, or sword they possessed. That's the kind of poverty with which they lived and yet served Allah. So Rasulullah then gives them glad tidings that poverty will soon go away, until someone will carry wealth and roam with the wealth, yet there will be no poor person who deserves the wealth, because everybody is well-to-do. Some of the Mufassirin of the hadith said, possibly this era passed in the era of Umar bin Abdulaziz. Some of them think that no, it might repeat itself before the end of the world, when affluence would affect everyone and everywhere, to the extent that no one would need anybody's wealth. But after all this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you to judgment. Allah will bring you to accountability on the day of Qiyamah. Don't forget the ayah in the Quran, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. And Allah, on that day, on the day of resurrection, would then ask you concerning the favors, the ni'am that He gave you. All the things He gave you. And that is when mankind's hypocrisy will be exposed. Why am I saying it will be exposed? Brother Bilal, mankind's hypocrisy will be exposed because on the day of Qiyamah, Allah will expose the entire ni'am that He gave all of us. Yet we're in this dunya lying to ourselves. Allah might give the brother wealth, but deny him childbirth. You know about that, right? Then Allah will give a poor person childbirth and deny him wealth, money. You see a poor person having triplets, right?
Nda kwana gida?